Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
1, 1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever.
Welcome into the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. I am joined here by Jake Hoover of Roncalli Catholic Baseball, varsity head coach at Roncalli. Jake, how you doing tonight?
Good, Bob. It's great to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I like the mustache for Mustache March. You're all about the facial hair awareness months.
Definitely about the facial awareness months and making sure that we're just keeping it going. Mm-hmm. If we get off to a good start this year, it might just trend into April, and who knows, maybe even May.
Well, with Roncalli this year, we got a brand new season, your second season on the job at Roncalli. How much easier has it been transitioning into year two than for year one?
Second year is a whole lot better, getting to know the staff more, the facilities, knowing the schedule, and being able to start a full year and get some skill work in has definitely helped to develop our kids and hopefully continuing what we started and what we finished with last year.
Last year, finished the Legion season at 26-14, runner-up in Class B state to Hickman, Norris, whatever you want to call them. And, you're losing a few seniors. What do you expect from the seniors this year that contributed last year?
Seniors this year really led our pitching staff last year and helped us to get to the state tournament. And where we were, Dan Bowers, especially Nick Yossi, they are the reason we got through area and in-state. And we're looking for big things for them to carry us and to lead our young group because we got a whole bunch of sophomores and only have 2-3 juniors on the team. So we're going to be really young in the field, and we're looking to make sure we're leaning on our pitching staff to carry us this year.
Yeah, the Bowers and Yossi had a big contribution last year in the state tournament. Dan throwing in the championship game against Hickman, throwing 7 innings in the first game to get us to a game 2. And then in game 2, throwing an extra 3 innings. Things didn't work out in that second game, but we also had Yossi warming up in the bullpen ready to go for that game. Those two, how do you expect them to lead a young defensive and offensive team this year?
They're definitely the guys that they lead by example. They're not the rah-rah kind of guys, so we're hoping that with everything that they do, their work ethic on the field and practice is going to help carry our younger guys and set the tone for how they should go about their business every day. And just to be honest, if we don't start well and they don't get a good start, we might struggle right off the bat because right away we got to lean on some of those younger guys that are unproven.
Mm-hmm. So with last year, kind of a slow start in the spring, not a lot of good weather in Omaha to, get outside right off the bat. How much do you think the weather so far, where we haven't had to go in the gym thus far for a practice, has helped in preparing for game 1?
I think if you look at last year compared to this year, last year we barely got outside, I think, until our first game, and we had a rough start. We started out 1-7, and it really put us behind this year. We've been able to do a lot more stuff. We've been able to practice a lot more, cover a lot more situations. It's going to help us be more prepared for the beginning of our season. And we start out with 5 games in 5 days. So it's going to be a tough stretch. It's going to test our pitching, but being able to play long toss and start developing our arms is definitely going to give us a better chance at the beginning of our year.
Road games, do you think that's going to have any effect, or do you think it matters to start?
I think some road games definitely to start when you're used to playing at your own place and you're used to practicing where you're at and starting out the year when you got 4 games on the road to start. That's always tough, knowing to travel and being on a bus and then getting off the bus and the times always change. So it might rattle us to start, but we'll see.
Do you think there is I mean, other than when you get to districts and state, do you think there is a tough place to play in baseball? There's no crowd. Like, I mean,
I think it depends on where you're at. If you're maybe more of a different Class A school that has more of a following, like a West Side or a Prep, there's some more feistier crowds. Or if, for instance, in Class B, if we're playing at Blair or possibly Bennington, they might have some more people come out. You're going more to those places where their fan base comes out more. But other than that, I don't think there is one place more than another that is a hard place to go to and play.
I think the crowd is more in baseball, more so than anything at the high school level, is more dictated based on the quality of officiating or umpiring. For baseball, more so than like a football or basketball. I feel like, especially if you're in a small town or a smaller town like a Blair, Beatrice, Fremont, if you're in one of those towns, and then the crowd gets into it because there's a bad call or a coach gets into it with the umpire or whatever, that gets the crowd more animated. But other than that, I don't think there's really a factor of home other than who gets to hit first.
No, and
That's
just like
difference.
Yeah, and just like any other game where when you're going on the road, the strike zone might be a little bit different. A couple of close calls might go the other way, just like in other sports. But umpiring always seems to be more intimate when it comes to baseball, just because everybody is right on top of you. There's always people chirping. There's only 2 umpires, and you're making bang decisions all the time. And tempers flare, and some people get upset because their ideas get questioned and their calls get questioned.
Can we do away with the home plate meetings? I feel like, before games, we already hand over the cards to the other coach. We can just go hand over get the ground rules for the field out of the way. I mean, they're pretty much the same for the most part everywhere, unless you're at a place with some concrete around. But I wish we could get rid of the home plate meeting. It's unnecessary forced conversation that I like.
Are you talking about at our level or different levels?
At all levels.
At the major league level, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially because after the first game of a series, the assistant coaches come out.
Or they send some Make-A-Wish
kid. Or they send a different person out. So it really doesn't play a factor. With us, it's hit or miss because, for example, you might go to one place where one year they have one set of ground rules, another year they have make some changes to their field. It might change. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's just more of a, hey, this is who we are. And I think you could do away with it, especially if you're talking to them before games, which every ump comes over. They ask you if you're equipped anyways. They're asking you the same questions. I think if you're trying to get the pace of play to speed up, trying to get games over with, which umpires are always trying to get games over with faster than they could or should.
Yeah.
Might as well just say see you later.
Well, we'll get into that here in a minute. But I don't like the forced conversation. Well, I haven't had to do it. Well, I did it last year, but for the most part, I hate that forced conversation with the umpire and the other coach. It's just nobody wants to do it. And then the other thing, I wish do you think there needs to be it's not a problem in high school, but overall, does there need to be a clock on the pitcher?
A game clock in high school?
Yeah.
Or just in general?
In general.
I think if you're looking at the major leagues and the pace of play and
Josh Beckett's retired, so
Josh Beckett is retired, and I am a Red Sox fan, so sad that he quit. But I mean, you watch any of those games that he pitched against the Yankees, it took forever, and everyone isn't into it. If you watch a high school baseball game, it sucks enough when people can't throw strikes. Things just drag on and on. I think the pitch clock is good for high school. I mean, not for high school, for major leagues. But I mean, at the other levels, I don't see it ever going to come into play.
What are some new rules this year to look out that all need to look out for as well when it comes to coaching?
I know a couple points of emphasis they're definitely looking at is throwing of equipment. If you get throwing of any of equipment or we're dropping F-bombs on the field, kids are going to get tossed immediately. I know they're more looking out for catchers, making sure they're wearing a one-piece helmet when they catch. But other than that, those are really the things they're looking at this year. And the major one is the throwing of equipment and sportsmanship rules.
The one rule that I wish they would do away with is if you're not at the home plate meeting that you can't argue calls, because I figure if you're on the field of play coaching, or you should have a right to say something. I understand they don't want to hear from everybody, but these umpires need to get over themselves a little bit as far as only wanting to hear one voice, because sometimes the voice they're hearing isn't right.
Well, I mean, it makes sense to an extent why they want it. I mean, but at the same time, if you're the coach at first base and there's a bang bang call, why are you not allowed to have a conversation?
The team this year. So last year lost a couple of, lost Ryan Niederle, Connor Berg, Owen McGill, Tyler Crawford, lost Jake Terakowski from Legion Ball. What are some things that those guys brought to the table that we're going to miss this year?
We brought a lot of chemistry with that group. They'd played together for a very long time, and a lot of experience. Tyler Crawford, 3-year varsity player. Connor Berg, correct me if I'm wrong, he was a 2-year varsity player. Three-year varsity player. McGill, same thing. We had a lot of guys that had a lot of experience, and it's hard to replace that, especially when you're going with a lot of younger guys this year, so that'll be tough. A nice thing is that our main cog of our pitching staff returns, so that'll be a big help and a boost for us. But offensively, that's where it's going to hurt us the most right off the bat, because Tyler Crawford had a terrific spring and a very good summer. Connor Berg, same thing. Ryan Niederle as well. Guys that just competed in the box and gave us a lot of advantages. And if you want to talk about the spring last year, Alec Boehm led the state in batting average, and he had a lot of home runs for us and gave us a lot of chances offensively at the plate. And so losing those kind of guys are really going to hurt, but we got a lot of young guys who are hungry that hopefully will be able to step in, fill some shoes, and be able to score some runs.
Also, losing Adam Gillespie and Connor Miller from first base, defensively, with the team, losing those two, Boehm, that senior class last year, what are some traits that they had, that whole class, that this new senior class this year has to pick up on?
I think one thing that they ended up being pretty good at, especially towards the end of the summer, is when it was really that crunch time of knowing it was time to kick into that extra gear. They were able to channel that extra mojo, you could say, that one little piece extra that they needed to carry themselves and be ready to go for those big games. And that was one thing that I will say, that they were gamers when it came down to it. When it was a big game and something was on the line, they stepped up to the challenge. And hopefully this group of seniors, as well as those younger guys, can feed off of that from last year and continue to build and go in that direction.
Now, you played at Bellevue East in Bellevue, Nebraska, and I played at Roncalli. I notice when we're coaching that at the end of the spring season, it's kind of like the kids are going through graduation. It's their last days of high school. They're going to all these graduation parties, so the focus isn't 100% on baseball. And that's when districts and state are starting for this high school season. And so the focus isn't there. And so the finish is, teams don't finish the best in the spring. And, you see it with, prep doesn't always win it in the spring. Or, there's good teams that struggle in the spring because their focus is on school. Once you get to the summer, cream rises to the top. And with Roncalli, the best years they've had are in the summer. And what did you notice from that team, from the spring districts to the districts in Legion baseball?
One thing I really noticed, and we got off to a really bad start. We had a couple unfortunate events that happened with our team, and some discipline had to follow, and we had some injuries, and so we got off to a 1-7 start. But we finished out really strong and we finished 8-11, and we lost in a tough one-run game to Gross, who went on to win our district and played in the state tournament. But I think that fueled us and gave us some fire going into the summer. When we started the summer, we got off to a tough start again. We lost our first 2 games, and then I believe we went on an 8-game winning streak, and we were really hot. We finished 26-14 and won our area and went to state. But we just really were hungry, and they picked it up. They got that confidence and realized that they finished the spring strong and realized kind of who they were and fell into their roles and just built off of what they had finished the spring with.
With the end to the spring, what were you expecting going into summer with, Alec winding up going to, play some baseball in Texas? What were you expecting going into the summer with a big loss of a D1 baseball player?
I knew offensively we might have some gaps that we'd have to fill, but it also allowed some other guys opportunities to rise and get more playing time and to develop. Especially the way that we finished the spring, I was really hopeful that we would have a strong summer and we could continue our growth as a program. We had a senior come back, or a former player, Roncalli, come back and played as a Legion baby, as they like to call it. And Jake Cherkowski, he did a great job and helped lead our team, and he kind of filled that void a little bit and gave us some more mojo. The guys became closer, had a really good run there, played some good baseball, and became really tight. And it was a fun finish to the year.
When Coach Reinders gets upset, what is your favorite go-to Reinders saying?
Oh, there's just so many to choose from. What's your favorite?
I think my favorite start-off point is actually Coach Reinders. Andrew Reinders was supposed to be here for this, but he had hockey. He goes to I don't know, guys. That's the start-off point. And then, what I always did, and then goes off from that point. That's one of my favorites, is when he starts off with, I don't know. That's not a good start.
One of my favorites is when the kids are getting upset or they're doing something that he thinks is dumb, and he just looks at them with a stupid look, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" Mm-hmm. And he just sits there with that dumb look on his face and just stares.
The resting face that he has. When he had some sunglasses. Me and Bowers, this is a good story. So me and Dan Bowers sitting on the bench during one of the varsity games, and a pair of sunglasses that somebody knocked him down onto the bench, and Coach Reinders did not find it funny. And he was like, these are $250 sunglasses. And eventually me and Dan Bowers started building up the accumulation of how much those sunglasses cost. Is like, dude, these sunglasses cost $1 million. Why are my sunglasses being knocked onto the bench? And I think those sunglasses he ended up getting for free. Did he not?
I think they might have been a gift from his cousin who was interning at the Oakley manufacturer plant, but here nor there, he might have paid a little bit for them, but regardless, he did not pay $250 for those sunglasses.
Mm-hmm. Well,
sunglasses that he went on to have destroyed in Kansas City because he left them on a trailer as they fell off when he drove away and got ran over by a car.
All right, well, back to the spring baseball schedule. What did I didn't look at the rankings. I don't read the newspaper because who reads the newspaper anymore? But did you read the newspaper? Has there been any rankings yet?
Rankings are not out yet. They're currently collecting everybody's thoughts of returning players, season outlooks, and who they think the top teams in the state are in their prospective class.
Now, I don't think they would want to hear you asked for my input, but it was not productive input. Very rarely is the input I give you very productive. But what would you say as far as this is an Omaha World Herald capsule for the Omaha Roncalli baseball program this year? What would you say? Outlook?
You gave me a pretty good one today. I got a good kick out of it. But one thing I will say is we have 5 seniors and a slew of younger guys or underclassmen that are going to come in and fill some shoes and hope to build off of what we started last year and hope to continue that. I mean, we finished runners-up, and obviously this is a new season with a new group of kids, but we have a really good opportunity with this group to do some special things. Maybe not so right in the near future, but this year is not out of the question. Going into next year and their senior years, we got a great chance to do some good things here at Roncalli.
I think that would have filled up too much room on the given space. Actually, it might have knocked Brad Dixon's space out of the sports section, so I would have been fine with that. But, okay, so before we go to break, all right, what is the greatest part of coaching with Bob Sullivan?
There's never a dull moment with Bob Sullivan. There's always something that Bobby brings to the table, whether it's some comic relief, some insight. The guy's a tireless worker when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of baseball. He'll go above and beyond to get a scouting report of a team that we've never heard of or never seen, and he'll do what it takes to figure out a game plan for us to have an advantage, and he's just a wonderful asset. And so I appreciate you, Bob, and everything you do for the program.
That nearly brought tears to my eyes. That was one of the nicest things anybody's ever said about me, and that includes my parents. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more Roncalli baseball. We're going to talk about the NCAA basketball selection garbage, whether I should or should not do a bracket fill out for the CBI. And we will be back here on the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com with Jake Hoover.
Different time zones, baby. leader, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. I never known nobody like you. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, baby, you're an enigma.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. I am joined here by varsity baseball coach from Ron Colley Catholic High School in Omaha, Nebraska, Jake Hoover. Jake, welcome back for a second segment. Not too many people make it back for a second segment.
Glad I could make it back.
Actually, a lot of people make it back for a second segment.
I don't feel important anymore.
You're the first Ron Colley baseball coach to make it back for a second segment.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can get a third or a fourth.
Okay. We'll see.
I'm glad I'm on the launching pad.
Yeah, you're definitely launching into some superstardom at this point. You know, the best thing for me though is people are able to hear our voices and not see our faces. And all I hear is, "Oh, he's good looking," and all this garbage.
You're talking about yourself?
No, I'm talking about you. How do you feel about being one of the best-looking coaches in Omaha high school baseball?
I don't think that would definitely. I don't know if there's a ranking system out for that. If there was, Ron Colley be in the top 10, I'd imagine.
Until you got to the JV level.
Until you got to the JV level and until people saw my mustache, and then I'd get relegated to the bottom of the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mustache March. What gave you the idea to continue on to, through the whole month of March with the mustache?
It started with my first year of coaching in high school. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something I did in college. I always followed the no shave November, the don't shave December months in college when I played, and all of a sudden when I got into coaching, it just kind of happened one year, and I've just kept doing it ever since. The kids got a kind of a kick out of it, and we just went with it. It might have actually been a bet. I think it was a bet I had with my team, and I lost and just rocked it.
What is the nicest thing a player has ever said to you?
The nicest thing. I think the nicest thing that was said was by Connor Berg last year after the spring season. We had a really tough spring, and we got bounced early, and he was just so appreciative of everything that we did, and knowing that I was a first-year coach for him, and it was his senior year, and obviously it didn't go the way that he wanted it to be, but that he was just so appreciative of everything that we had done together and the work that he'd put in. And he was just so excited for the summer that I think that was the gratifying thing, when kids really reach out to you. And that's one of the things I really love from that senior group is that they still reach out. We still have conversations, and all the other past players I have, and just knowing you can still have those relationships and that you meant something to them and that they're point in their life.
What is the worst thing? You don't have to use names. What is the worst thing that a player has said to you?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of expletives involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I don't know, cocksucker probably comes to mind with that one.
SYC?
SYC. I don't know. I mean, it just goes along those lines. People just get frustrated or mad with lack of playing time. Mm-hmm. I know I've been involved with a couple incidents where kids didn't like what was going on and they voiced their opinion in the middle of a game, and it didn't really go well in those power struggles, but we moved through those.
You know, I saw something the other day on Twitter. Bennington does like a blue-white series or whatever with their team. I don't know if you saw that or not. But have you ever thought about doing a crimson gold series?
In the spring?
Yeah, or summer. Either way.
Oh, yeah, that would be a cool thing to do. I've always thought about it, but it's tough when you can't predict the weather and you can't predict what's going on and what kind of kids are going to be ready. We have a really young team this year, and you know, with our smaller numbers, it gets hard sometimes to find that middle ground of who can play on the same level as some other kids to make it competitive. And it's definitely something maybe possibly going into the summer that we'll be able to do. We've done it a little bit so far. We've gone our Crimson and Gold series when we've scrimmaged. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of done it, but not a full-fledged series.
Now, Mount Michael has a coach named Bob Sullivan as well. And I think this was 20. Keith, when did I do the Bob Sullivan Show with other Bob Sullivans on it?
Oh, jeez. That was a while ago.
Was that 2014?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So I did a Bob Sullivan Show with other Bob Sullivans on it. And I forgot that he was on the list of Bob Sullivans. But last year I had our announcer say the real Bob Sullivan. He introduced me as the real Bob Sullivan. What makes me better than the Bob Sullivan at Mount Michael?
What makes you better? What makes you stand above and beyond?
Yeah.
Beyond being a Roncalli grad and a Roncalli legend, the All-Sport Award winner.
Yeah, the All-Sport Award winner for baseball, swimming, and tennis.
You're like a Renaissance man, Bob. You're an athletic dynamo. You're a fitness extremist. I mean, you just are the man. So it sets you apart.
You got to admit, like when Coach Reinders calls me fat or out of shape, I do make some surprisingly athletic plays when I'm, playing over the line or one of those games.
You're more athletic than
I'm giving
coaching
credit
staff
for.
And the kids give you credit for.
Yeah,
and it's surprising. And then they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I should look at myself sometimes," because we have some kids in our program that they talk the crap and they don't back it up themselves.
Yes. Okay, so going spring, I guess we got the Omaha World Herald outlook. What's the outlook for the Bob Sullivan Show? And then what's the outlook come River City Conference Tournament play?
I honestly think we could make a run and make it through districts and possibly make state if we can gel together and match our pitching with our defense and play good defense and hit. But if we can't back up our pitching performances with some runs and good defense, we're going to be struggling this year, and we might hover around 500. If we can figure all those things out, we definitely are going to have a chance to be above 500 and get into a tournament. I know we're hosting the semifinals and championship of the RCC tournament. It all really just depends on who you stack up with. I mean, Scott's always going to be good. Mount Michael's, they're getting better. You got your other teams in there that they're always fighting for chances, and so it really depends on who you stack up with. I think we'll have a good chance when you got Dan Bowers and Nick Yossi on the mound. They always give you two games that you're going to have a great option and a great chance to win. So that's the nice thing about us. I think we have two of, if not the best pitchers in Class B, they're right up there in the talk for being two of the best pitchers in Class B. So we always have a chance when those two are on the mound.
What's the worst part of riding a bus?
The worst part? Listening to high school kids just constantly chirping all the time and listening to their terrible music and yelling and cussing and all the smells that come around. And then the seats are so worn out that you're hurting by the time you're off of it and the length.
Are you surprised that we're not at a point yet where there's seat belts on a bus?
I always thought it was odd that there were never any seatbelts on a bus. Well, what makes that a more safe alternative than a different vehicle? If you crash in a bus, it's the same concept as crashing in a car, right?
Well, it's like if you hit a bump too, you fly out of the seat and land hard back down on the seat. It's like this. I don't. The school buses, they're fine, but the seat bus or the seat belt, it feels like, you know, that would have been the first thing. That seemed like a first vehicle you would have put seat belts in, and it's like it's definitely the last vehicle to have seat belts put in.
I mean, if it starts to roll, it's like your gerbils in their cage or their little ball. You just start rolling around, and all of a sudden, everybody's just flying around inside that thing.
I cannot believe you could be so disrespectful after Kimmy Nibbler has died to bring up a gerbil. Like, gerbil just died, and you're going to go down that route to talk about. Shame on you. Apologize to Kimmy Nibbler right now.
You found a replacement pet within 1 week.
That's true.
There was no attachment.
There was a lot of attachment.
There was no attachment.
Yeah.
You found a hedgehog that you love more. That you can't even pick up with your bare hands. Who gets an animal that you can't even pet or pick up because it will prick you?
Well, I don't know. It's an interesting start of a conversation.
It definitely is. Now, are you going to tell? Have you told everybody what their hedgehog's name is?
Officer Hogs.
Why Officer Hogs?
Well, because he's not quite Boss Hog from Dukes of Hazzard, and I you know, with all the problems with the with Boss Hog, you know, with the General Lee being displayed in Dukes of Hazzard, I figured I want to be politically correct. I'm not going to say Boss Hog because it's going to offend people, so I went with Officer Hogs.
Is this a first on your show where you want to be politically correct?
Yeah, you did it. Keith, what do you think? Is this a first?
Oh yes, definitely. I'm more upset.
I don't even think there's a close second as far as political correctness.
I'm more upset you didn't go with David Hasselhoff like I suggested.
David Hasselhoff.
That would be a good one.
Well, if it would have been a female, I would have gone Quillery Clinton.
I don't know why you're so stuck with these quill names.
He got me.
Quilliam Clinton, Quillery.
Well, they got quills. Actually, they're.
I get the pun.
Well, okay. Does Officer Hogs work for you then?
No, Boss Hog would have been more sufficient. I like that one.
It was, but again, I didn't want the political correctness community to come after me. Okay, so do we even do a Legion preview? Because it's so far in advance.
That's so far in advance. I wouldn't talk about that. I'd worry about the spring, which could be very interesting, to say the least.
Well, one more thing before we get into the NCAA tournament business. Any complaints about Bob Sullivan while he's coaching?
Well, Bob's coaching?
Yeah, about Bob Sullivan's coaching.
Complaints about Bob Sullivan's coaching. You know, I don't. You do a really good job. I don't know if I have any complaints. I might have some suggestions.
I think my favorite moment was when me and Shu, we were in the district.
It was Blair. It was against Blair.
It was the championship game. Yeah, so you remember this. So me and him were sitting there, and then you came up and said something about position of the first baseman, and we just kind of brushed it off. And then we were both like, yeah, screw him. And then eventually I was like, yeah, maybe he's right. And then we eventually moved the first baseman into the position you suggested. So that was the one time where we really we wanted you to F off, but we definitely agree. We didn't want to give you the satisfaction of knowing you were right when you initially told us.
Oh, I remember, and there was still a situation in state where Coach Reinders made a suggestion, and you just straight told him to stick it where the sun don't shine and to leave him alone.
I didn't do that. That was Shu. Shu, the elder statesman.
The elder statesman, our former coach.
Yeah.
He's an honorary coaching staff.
By the way, I have a complaint about him. Okay, so we had an injury in center field last year. I don't do CrossFit. I don't do running. I don't do any of that stuff. Exercising. I don't do that stuff. He runs a CrossFit gym, Climate CrossFit. If you're in Omaha, you should go to it. Get a membership now.
I think they got a sale on memberships.
Yes.
6 months for $100 a month, something like that.
Yes, definitely worth it. It got our players into
great shape.
Got them to, take that extra step at the end of the season. However, we had an injury in like dead center field, farthest part of the park, and I had to jog out there to go check on the player. Not the guy who does CrossFit every day. Not the guy that runs, 5 miles and does, 60-pound snatches for, breakfast. The guy who doesn't exercise and the guy who, is anti-exercise had to run out there. And I nearly had a catastrophic event running back. And I got a bunch of crap from our players.
Now, if this
I will never forgive him for this.
If this was a food eating contest, you'd be the king of the castle.
Oh, I would have run straight to the buffet. Like if this was a buffet out in center field.
This isn't Cozad, but
no.
yeah.
Which
worst places? Some of the worst places we ate at. Cozad.
What is it with these small towns in Nebraska where it's uniform to have a salad bar? Like, because you're full by the time you get your meat. It's like Sizzler. Like, you're full by the time you get or Bonanza or whatever. You're full by the time you get your food. Because you eat so much lettuce and, I mean, you probably don't, but I would always be like, oh, wow, it's a buffet. All right, you get ham, bacon all on your salad, and then you go get a second one because it takes so long to get the food. And then by that time you're full and you're like, okay, well, I still have to eat this meal. Your thoughts on that situation?
I won't disagree, but you could always choose to not get the salad bar and wait for your meal like a normal person. But at the same time, everywhere we went when we were down there, it seemed like there was a salad bar. And they're trying to skimp on their meals.
Yes. All right. Well, into NCAA tournament, looking at the NCAA brackets, where did they go wrong?
Did they go wrong?
Did you think Monmouth? I mean, I really don't feel bad for any teams that don't make it unless it's a mid-major. Like, I feel like mid-majors that have good seasons deserve to be in more so than an average team in a good conference.
I think so. I mean, same thing if you're looking at football, and all of a sudden, you want to look at the SEC and look at some team that's just at the bottom. What makes them? They didn't get through their conference. They might have struggled in non-conference play. But yet somebody who won 10 games in a lower conference, then they'll get a shot.
Yeah.
Same thing that happens in basketball. Like UNO, just because we live next to the University of Nebraska at Omaha, we're next to the Summit League. Why is it fair that some of those teams, if you're
I don't get why
they get one shot.
I thought Fort Wayne should have made it. Max Landis, Player of the Year in the Summit League. I thought he would have been fun to watch against a Xavier or somebody like that. Like, if they were 15th, I was surprised that SDSU got as high a seed as they did. After Fort Wayne was projected to be like a 15th seed and they were the 1 seed and didn't win. But I just think it's funny with, it's like, some team like Nebraska would have a better shot at making the NCAA tournament than a team that finished second in a MAC or that's just not right. That isn't right.
How is Kentucky a 4 seed and Indiana a 5 seed? But West Virginia's a 3.
West Virginia, weren't they like a 2 seed in the Big 12 though?
They were a 2 seed in the Big 12, but I mean, you watch them play, and you watch them play not necessarily in the conference tournament, but you watch them before that, they were getting handled by Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're playing some close games against Oklahoma, but then all of a sudden they go into that last game, and they just get handled.
So Kansas did win the...
Yeah, Kansas won. I'm just saying, I don't, you know, West Virginia's a 3. I mean, Kentucky is what Kentucky is. They're going to make a run.
See, I think they're Kentucky, Indiana, and who is it? Kansas are all in the same bracket. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
If Kentucky, or no, North Carolina is in that bracket. I think Kentucky is one where I don't think Calipari gets enough credit for how good a coach he actually is.
No, he definitely doesn't, and obviously he recruits, but you got to be a really good coach to recruit and get those kind of kids. And then there's got to be a lot of egos with those kind of kids because they know that they're NBA caliber and they're going to be one and done. So you got to pull a Joe Torre, you got to manage all the egos, and then they got to all be on the court and play and win. And they might have struggled early, but man, they're playing some good basketball right now.
I don't think he. Oh, it's Carol Lawson that we're watching, not Don Staley. Don Staley's the one that coaches at South Carolina. I was with Calipari. Yeah. Is he the best X's and O's guy? No. But he definitely has he's able to get these guys to mesh together. I mean, getting a team with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and whatnot. Yes, that's a talented team, and Patrick Patterson. That's a talented team. However, that team, could they have gone a little farther? Sure. But the whole getting chemistry together with a team that has all these superstars is not easy. Ask a lot of high school coaches for any sport. Ask Bruce Chubbuck for Omaha South. Like, that's a good, talented, very good, talented team. I guarantee you, getting those personalities to mesh was not easy.
No,
and he's probably not going to get as much credit as he deserves for that winning state in the basketball.
No, he doesn't. He's not going to get credit because everyone's always used to say, "Well, you have the athletes to be there and to win." But at the end of the day, you have to work every day with those kids. You have to challenge those kind of kids in a different way that you might have to challenge the kids who aren't as skilled to make sure that they're focused, to make sure that they're playing together because they have a goal in mind. And it takes a lot for those kids because a lot of them have individual goals and might want to go play at a Division I or a Division II. And so to rein those guys in to say, we need to stay within our own system to play and win, that still takes a lot of effort.
Who right now is in your Final Four? Who would you take in the Final Four right now?
Ooh. Final Four right now.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina.
See,
I mean, that's going to be tough because you got to assume that they're going to end up running into Kentucky, right? Kentucky
or even
Indiana.
Who's the 2 seed in that bracket?
2 seed in theirs?
Yeah.
Is Xavier.
I don't trust really any Big East.
See, that's what's tough is, you look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 7 seed. I don't really see them going that far. Notre Dame didn't have a very good showing, conference tournament. Michigan got hot at the end, but they were almost being on the bubble and not being in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're tough chat. Unless West Virginia goes on a run, it's going to be Kentucky or Indiana.
Okay. I agree with that.
So I can see them going, and then let's see here. If I'm taking my look, do you think Villanova can do it? Do you think Villanova outlasts and gets through Kansas?
I like Jay Wright, but I don't like their team.
I think Oregon's probably one of the softest 1 seeds.
Ooh. I like Dana Altman.
Well, you like him because of Creighton, but how long has he been in Oregon? And you got to assume
they've made some deep runs with underrated. Like I think they've made an Elite 8 since he's been there.
I don't know.
I come on, don't pull a Gus.
I think maybe Texas A&M comes out of that side. I don't see Oregon going. Duke's not going to make it. Maybe it's Oklahoma or Texas A&M, I would have to say, to come out.
I think a team to look out for. Not to win it all, but to make a deep run. Okay, Wichita State. All right, so you got Wichita State. The team who was at VCU, when they had that first play-in game, they went to the Final Four. Wichita State plays Vanderbilt. Then they get Arizona, who, under Sean Miller, they have not been a dominant force in postseason play. Then they get most likely a Miami, who, again, not really somebody I'm going to buy into in March. And then you'll either get Iowa, Temple, or Villanova. And I think Wichita State meeting up again with KU, if they get to the Elite Eight, you heard it here. Wichita State makes the Final Four. I know that's a lot to ask, but they beat Kansas last year. Kansas again, they can always go down to a Colorado or Maryland at some point. Wichita State is going to the Final Four. You heard it here.
I don't think Bill Self gets enough credit for the job that he does.
I agree.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
And, he was under some scrutiny early and rallied the troops, and those guys started playing really well. And they responded. And then all of a sudden, you got your Seldins that are playing well, your Perry Ellis playing well, and they're in a really good spot. I don't see them, if Wichita State makes it, losing to them. But a team that I would look out for is Stephen F. Austin. And, yeah, they match up with West Virginia early. But, if you look at them, they were really hot at the end of the year. Really good run. They're a good squad. You never know. If they get past West Virginia, they could make a little run there.
I could see that. Another question. The whole talk, actually the last couple of years, the talk has been, oh, well, if there's a year for the 16 seed, they'll beat a 1 seed. It's this year. I don't see that this year. Do you? I guess Florida Gulf Coast, if they were playing somebody other than...
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Oregon, I think, Oregon's good. Virginia's good. These are...
Well, Florida Gulf Coast, that's a playing game, right?
Yeah.
So, that's not even a for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it happens this year. Now, might there be a 12 to 15 seed that gets an upset or two? Yeah, it'll definitely be those.
I would like to say Villanova, but...
Does South Dakota State beat Maryland? You went and watched them play. You covered them.
Yeah. I'm going to say no. I think Maryland has struggled, but I think Maryland's far more talented than South Dakota State. Mike Dahm, I like him. I think they fell behind in so many of those first two games of the tournament against an Oral Roberts and against a Denver. Those were a 6 and 7 seed in the Summit League tournament. I don't see those two. If you fall behind by 10 plus points against a Maryland, you're not coming back from it. If you're South Dakota State, now if they get off to a hot start, then yes, okay, they might have a shot, but they can't start slow like they've done in the last basically 3 games against far. And by the way, South Dakota State went through the 7, 6, and 5 seed in the Summit League tournament. They didn't go through, they didn't play Omaha, who was the 3 seed. They didn't play Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, who was the 1 seed. Fort Wayne definitely choked against North Dakota State in that game when they were up by 18 and then lost by 1. But I would say South Dakota State, of anybody, probably had the easiest road through their conference tournament to get here. And they wouldn't have gotten here without their conference tournament. And they also fell behind in those games. So I would say they don't have a shot against Maryland. I would like to say they do, but I don't think they do.
What do you think about Shaka Smart, what he's done to Texas so far, and do you think if they make it into the second round, how they would look against Texas A&M?
I would like to see that matchup, but I really like the Horizon League, which I like Green Bay. I don't think they're going to beat Texas A&M. 2, I'm still a Missouri Valley homer. I thought I would have loved Creighton to stay so I could still go down to St. Louis and not spend a pretty penny to have to go to New York and waste 5 days there. I say that loving the Knicks, but I think with Texas, UNI, I think UNI is a little. I think both of these teams are actually a little more or higher seeded than they should be. Like I would have seen UNI as like a 13 maybe, but UNI is not afraid of anybody. They've beaten Iowa State, North Carolina. I would take them. What time's that game? 9:50 Eastern time. Let's see where that. Well, wherever that game. I'll take UNI Texas A&M matchup there. I like Shaka, but Ben Jacobson and UNI has played Shaka Smart's teams before in a tournament setting and bracket buster, so they know what to expect there. And it's not like Texas is, he hasn't gone out and gotten extraordinary athletes, so UNI is not going to be intimidated by this team.
What about Iowa and their collapse at the end of the year? Do you think that just totally deflates their sails and they have a first-round exit against Temple?
Did Temple lost to UConn, right? Was that in the championship today? I would like to say Iowa doesn't win.
Because how demoralizing of a season have you had? Because
they went from number 3 in the country.
They got up so high, and then it just fell fast.
I like Utah. I like Gazelle. I think Temple, though. I do think Temple wants a shot at Villanova. I don't think McCaffrey. I don't think he's that great of a coach. I think he's kind of an idiot. But I would probably take Temple in that game to get a shot at Villanova. What do you think?
I think Iowa just totally is just
checked
in their own head. They're checked out. I don't see it. I think Temple gives them a run and has a good matchup with Villanova in the second round.
This makes me more angry than anything when somebody's like, "Oh, what's an upset in this bracket that you really see?" And then Andy Katz is like, "Oh, my big upset special in this bracket is UConn, the 9 seed over the 8 seed Colorado." And it's like, that's not an upset. Those are two teams that are like the same thing. That's like that's like picking a 4 over a 5 in the NBA playoffs or something. I mean, that's not an upset. I mean, technically by the book, yes, it's an upset, but that doesn't take any guts.
If you want an upset, you're picking Chattanooga over Indiana. I mean, you're taking somebody like that, or you're taking
South Dakota State over Maryland.
Taking South Dakota State over Maryland.
I think
obviously, the further you get, it's harder to find those upsets because those teams get weeded out. But there'll be a couple, just like every year, that make it in, and then those are your real upsets if that's what you're picking. But when you're picking a 4 to go up against 6, those aren't.
From anywhere, anything that's a double digit, that's an upset special. Or an upset where you're like, okay, if you want to be like, okay, I'm going to take UConn to go to the Sweet 16, then that's like, okay, that's the upset special of the bracket. But you can't just be, I'm going to take Providence over USC. That's not, that's no good. That doesn't fly with me. These people like Andy Katz, who always does this with, 9 over an 8. That's no good. That does not fly with me, and that those people should be weeded out from being on TV. Okay, a couple more things before we get out of here. I am trying to do a video. Do you think I should try to get the police chief of Omaha to do a CBI bracket fill out like Obama does with the NCAA tournament? Try to get the police chief of Omaha to do a bracket fill out video.
For the CBI, not the NCAA tournament?
Yes.
I think that would be very, very funny, and I think that would be something worth looking into and definitely putting on the social media. See if it'll get a viral hit on it.
Especially after me getting a picture with him of us holding a picture of us.
I don't know what's better than that. That's pretty great.
An autograph.
How did
picture.
he like that, by the way?
It's hanging up in his house.
No.
that much needs to be known. That is hanging up in his house. Well, before I let you get out of here, Jacob Hoover, I want to give a shout out to Emmett, by the way. Thank you for listening. And Josh and Gus and potentially Rich or Shu, if those guys are listening. But where do we find you on the Twitters? And give us one last pitch for Roncalli Baseball.
Well, you can find us in the baseball program at RCHS Ball. And then my own personal Twitter is at HoovKnows. Always look in those places and see what we got going on. But otherwise, we start out Friday and hope to have a good year and build with this group. And we'll see what the year has in store for us and see what hills we're going to climb and hopefully can reach the mountaintop and make it to the state tournament.
Let's climb that mountain, buddy. All righty, Jake. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Honored to talk to you live on air for the first time. And that'll do it for this edition of the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. You can catch other Bob Sullivan shows on LateNightSportsRadio.com, Spreaker app, and iTunes under Late Night Sports Radio. And I will see you next week. Good night.